All right, guys, thank you for having me here. This may be the last, speaking opportunity of the day, but I'll guarantee it'll be the best one. But yeah, I think when I was approached to speak, and we're a very AI-focused company. I think one of the things that we run into is there's a lot of buzz around AI, but you know what is it that's real and what is it that's not, right? So I felt it would be interesting to just have a casual conversation around which AI tools or which AI specific areas we feel are real, which ones are not, right? So that's really the focus of what I will be covering today. So as we all know, AI has burst onto the scene, and like any new technology, right? Some bits are great, and some bits are not so great. Now, AI is different, right? Because I personally feel that nothing in the last, I don't know, 200 years is more impactful and relevant, and will be more impactful and relevant than AI, all right? However, that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of FUD or marketing or stuff that doesn't work as well, right? So what I really wanted to focus on is, hey, what is it that's working when it comes to AI in media and entertainment, and what is it that's not working so well, right? So we'll cover some of this. Now, before we get started, I'll be using a lot of AI jargon, so I just want to make sure that we all are on the same page when it comes to AI, right? So, who here has heard of AI? I'm just kidding, right? So I'm sure everybody has, right? But machine learning, right? So machine learning is really the non-marketing way to explain what AI is, right? It's basically a machine learning what human beings can do, right? Or how we think. And our neural networks is the further explanation of what machine learning is, right? How do we implement AI models? How do we implement machine learning? Well, we use neural networks to do so. And if you really sort of look inside these AI engines, what they're doing is actually mimicking the neurons in our brains, right? I mean, if you look at it, it's basically one neuron has a weight, it sends signals to the other, and that's really how AI engines also work in a really simplistic way. Then we have natural language processing, which is NLP, which is once again a way to program a neural network in a way so it behaves and acts like how human beings understand data, right? Computer vision, I mean, that's how we're getting all this AI enrichment, AI detection, right? Generative AI, right? The scariest term in media and entertainment. Who's going to take all our jobs, right? Writers, actors, everybody's terrified of generative AI, right? But again, it's I'll cover the fact that it's not as scary as people think. Semantic search, right? We've got text search, which we've all been used to. You search for a word, and if that word exists in your database, you're going to get a hit back, right? Semantic search goes beyond that, right? I mean, that's one of the cool things about AI and machine learning is I can search for happiness, and I'll get a video back of puppies, right? And that's the cool part now. You don't have to tag all your content, and at the heart of that is semantic search. Agentic AI, now this is a new term that gets thrown around really loosely, right? And agentic AI is really, the Hollywood nightmare that gets presented, right? Which is autonomous, self-thinking, decision-making AI, right? So, Terminator, all of these guys, right? In the past, well, you can term them as agentic AI engines, right? And agentic AI is also the nightmare stories when you hear, oh, Facebook turned off their AI because it started communicating with this other AI in its own language, so they had to turn it off. That all comes under agentic, all right? Now, what used to be sort of science fiction is now real, right? If you go to ChatGPT, it has an agentic mode now. It has a research mode now, which means these engines will work on behalf of you even when you're not with it, all right? Is it scary? A little bit, all right? But I don't think it's anywhere close to being the Hollywood nightmare that we've all seen. LLM. Now this, I think LLMs are where, we have the heart and soul of what we are being impressed by, right? So this is OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, Gemini, right? Nano Banana. These are tools which are huge machine learning ecosystems that have been trained with everything from a PhD thesis on quantum physics to, I don't know, how to make butter chicken, right? I mean, these engines have gone through so much neural network training that they are a massive storehouse of information. And OpenAI, Claude, that's why we can ask them questions, that's why they give us such good answers. So I believe in today's day and age, LLMs are the heart and soul of AI, and that's really what's giving you these impressive results when you search it, right? And lastly is retrieval augmented generation, which is sort of an add-on to LLMs. And all it's saying is that, okay, when I ask a question and I get an answer, it's going to take that answer, submit it to an LLM, and give you a better answer, right? So it's a way to augment every answer with an LLM so you get a better answer, right? So I just want to throw some of these key terms out there just because it's interesting. I can't speak to an AI understanding if everybody doesn't understand the AI concepts, right? And I said it would be interesting to see how these technologies are now coming into broadcast and media, right? So generative AI, right? We're seeing this concept of saying, hey, can I have AI anchors? Can I have virtual presenters? Can AI now write a script for me? Can it do a story generation for me? Can it do voice cloning, synthetic voices? I mean, I'm seeing music videos and reels now being made which are entirely AI based. So we're not only generating, like a background or a visual, we're generating, full videos. And we'll cover, where this sits in the hype cycle pretty soon, right, in the next few slides. Automation and workflow AI, right? We're talking about automated newsrooms, we're talking about sports highlights, captioning, smart scheduling. We're talking about workflow orchestration where AI is stepping in. Content intelligence and metadata. I mean, this is a very key area that I feel has, and again, when we cover the hype cycle, that is really paying dividends, right? It's very predictable. Speech to text and captioning is something which is very real, right? AI is making massive improvements in this area. Automated tagging and recognition, semantic search, archive enrichment, right? This area I feel is, a definite plus in where AI is helping. Localization and accessibility AI, transcription into hundreds of languages, taking something that was created in Hindi, but now being able, to convert that to thousands of different languages is something that is definitely somewhere AI can help. AI-based dubbing, regional adaptation, I mean, it's all stuff that AI is very good for. Analytics and optimization. This is again where you're saying, hey, how do I distribute my content? How do I target it for the right audience, right? Again, an area where we're seeing AI. Trust, compliance, and safety, right? Being able to detect fake news, being able to detect deep fakes, right? That's another area where we're seeing AI, right? But all these technologies, like, where is it in the hype cycle, right? Now, I've said this word hype cycle multiple times, but what is the hype cycle, all right? So the hype cycle is actually a well-known concept that was coined by Gartner, right? So what Gartner said is, any new technology that comes in goes through a cycle, which they call the hype cycle. So what are the different stages of the hype cycle? Well, the first one is an innovation trigger, right? So this is where there's an early proof of concept, there's high curiosity, which means they say this technology can do something. Everybody gets really excited. Everybody wants to try it out, right? And which kind of leads us into the next phase, which is the peak of inflated expectations, all right? So this is the top of the curve where everybody believes that all your problems will be solved by this technology. Agentic AI is in one of them where everybody just says, oh, how will I do this in the future? Oh, I'll have an agentic AI. I'll have a chatbot. I'll have, something will just take care of it. You literally are referring to agentic AI like God now, right? God will take care of it. Oh, agentic AI will take care of it. So this is, where you have the peak of inflated expectations. And just like everything in life, it crashes. which we call the trough of disillusionment, all right? That's when you realize that this technology can't do all the things these marketing people told me it could do, right? So it's a crash, right? But after the crash comes realizations, comes reality, which is the slope of enlightenment, where you say, you know what, yes, it can't do those 10 things, but it can do these 2 things really well. And you put that into practice, plateau of productivity, which is where now you're starting to really make use of these technologies, right? So what I wanted to go through next is, where do all of these AI technologies lie in the hype cycle, all right? And what this will give you is also an idea of how should you be adopting these technologies internally in your organization, your pipeline, your workflow, right? What is real? So mapping the hype cycle, AI anchors and agents, generative script writing, these are the ones that are, everybody's getting really excited by. You're seeing, all of these YouTube shorts and reels where, it's an AI dancing, the song has been created by AI, the actors are being created by AI, the news anchors are being created by AI. All the people who are script writers and storytellers are getting really nervous because they feel they won't have a job. So this is sort of where we're seeing an innovation trigger and a peak of inflated expectations right now, right? However, in the trough of disillusionment, we're seeing newsrooms, automated newsrooms, AI-driven advertising, where we all expected that the entire newsroom process would be automated by AI. Advertising would be completely managed end-to-end by AI engines, right? And we're seeing, no, that's not going to happen. Meta tagging, subtitling, translation, we're really starting to see, and this was the era I was referring to, where AI can really help, right? And we'll get into the details. And plateau of productivity, this is compliance automation, editing tools are all now entering an area where you're actually seeing tremendous benefits in the field, right? So let's dive in a little bit into each one of these areas, right? So the first one, which is peak of inflated expectations, right? So this is where we're seeing the generative AI stuff really coming in, right? And I should have added a few more here because, it's not just about anchors, it's not just about script writing, but everything, right? Actors are being replaced. We're talking about movies that are going to be automated. But what my prediction is that you will not replace actors. You will not replace story writers. You'll not replace cameramen. What will happen is all of these different agents will get enhanced by generative AI, right? So instead of now saying, I gotta go shoot an explosion, well, maybe you won't do that. Maybe you'll basically have generative AI create the explosion for you. So your costs of creating content will go down. You won't lose your cameraman, but you'll have less spend, in my opinion, right? So I just think, again, generative AI will play a role, but not a replacement role, an augmentation role in your content creation, right? Trough of disillusionment, right? So this is where we believe a few things are just not going to work out, right? I just feel, we've gone through the process. We're talking about automation, the entire production and news pipeline, AI-driven ads. We just don't think that this is going to now pan out, right? Slope of enlightenment. So this is where we believe that we're starting to see real benefits, right? Metadata tagging, right? Anybody who here has large-scale archives, right, and wants to monetize them is now in a position to truly do that, right? We have a host of technologies from, AWS transcription, we have AWS recognition, we have OpenAI, we have Claude. All of these tools are going to come together and they're going to enhance your deep archive, right? And that's going to make content more monetizable. This is good stuff, right? This is where I think AI can really step in. And if you have any of these areas that need enhancement, go for it, right? There are multiple tools, they're mature, people are making use of them, it's a good idea to dive in. Plateau of productivity. These are the tools that we feel that people are already using, and we're seeing people who are now not just researching it, it's being deployed, or it has been deployed now for the last year. Editing automation, this is where, if content's coming in, You want it automatically tagged. You want the transcriptions to be created. You want to do a transcript-based editing. You want to put rules for subclipping to happen. That's all being done right now. There are hundreds of tools out there that can do it. You should be investing. You should be grabbing it. Should be grabbing onto it. You should be putting it into practice, right? So it's definitely a place to look at. What I wanted to just put up there is a few ending thoughts, right, which is I've taken actually from an interesting article, right? What are some of the barriers and adoption trends we've seen to AI, right? And interestingly, you'll see that a lot of it is due to skilled professionals who don't understand AI, right? And then a lot of them, because they don't understand AI in your organization, they cannot understand the biases that AI brings to these tools, right? So yes, you want to implement AI within your organization, but you have to be educated about the limits of AI, and you have to get specialists that you can either consult with or hire them who can tell you what can AI do and what it can't, right? Grounding is a concept that you have to understand with AI. You have to actually tell the AI tool, hey, don't do A, B, and C things, because an AI engine is like a really intelligent child. It will lie to you. So if it can't find answers, okay, it will lie to you. Now, you as a user may think, oh, because this AI engine is telling me, clearly it must be true. No, it's not true. You have to treat the AI engine, as I said, as an intelligent child. You have to give it guardrails. You have to give it limits. And you have to say, in fact, some of the prompts we create, we have to say, do not make up stuff. Do not lie about this. And then it comes back and says, okay, I didn't find any information. But it's very easy for AI to lie, by the way. And that can completely mislead the user. The areas that we're seeing trends right now, the biggest trends in AI is that 77% of people prefer AI embedding in existing tools, right? So this is not something revolutionary, I'm saying. But the idea is you don't want AI to come in and just rip out everything that you're doing. You want it to enhance what you're doing. That's all this is saying. But this is a key trend, right? 85% of people believe that AI will have a significant long-term impact, right? Which is what I said at the beginning of this talk. And I'm sure every one of you believes that. And the idea is that, you know, hopefully with this talk, and it was a short talk, because it's the end of the day, that you guys will start to think about AI differently, right? It's not a panacea that's going to cure all your problems. If you take it with a pinch of salt, if you understand the limitations and you bring the right technologies in, there's phenomenal impact it's going to have. And even the technologies that are not mature today within AI will mature incredibly in the next few years. So that's all I had today. If you guys have any questions, I'll happily take that. So. Cool. Any questions, anybody? Correct, correct.
So, like you said about the guardrails and
Right.
tell the AI not to do what you.
Correct.
So, is there any other noise factors that you would like to?
There's a tremendous, and it's a very broad question that you're asking, but I'll try to answer it in as specific a way as I can. When you're dealing with AI, it could be as simple as a prompt like saying, tell me something more about a show like Tarak Mehta, okay? And if you ask that question to ChatGPT, you'll see that it'll make up a lot of stuff for you, even though it doesn't know anything about the show per se. So when you have to ask ChatGPT a question, a lot of us tend to ask ChatGPT questions which are very open-ended. Try to not ask open-ended questions. Try to ask it very specific questions. Questions like, hey, you know, tell me about the show. Tell the agent, the OpenAI agent or the ChatGPT agent, a lot of what you know, what you want to know, and how to keep the answers limited. And to also tell it, don't make up stuff. So you have to be, as I said, very specific about what you're asking for. The more specific you are, the better answers you'll get. The more general you are not going to be able to tell what's real and what's not, right? And it's a specific term. I mean, you're calling it noise, but in AI terms, you would call it hallucinations. So the AI engine will lean towards hallucinating in an effort to please you, because that's by definition what it's been designed to create.
Hi, my name is Kapil. In 2024, there were 3 Nobel Prizes given related to AI, work.
Right.
This year, in 2025, there was 1 Nobel Prize which was to do with quantum computing,
Right.
related to the next generation of
Right.
machine learning is there. So when you say that in the hype cycle, where the AI is, because you have seen the entire 5 stages where you mentioned that these are the things happening.
Correct.
So according to you, Trideep, where do we stand now? Because I think the last gentleman mentioned about noise. It's not noise anymore.
Right.
Because if it was noise, we won't be talking that much, right?
Right,
So
right.
according to you, AI as a whole, where do we stand in the hype cycle?
So I think it's a very good question. So if you think about all the AI algorithms of today, the theory of what we could implement is like 100 years old or 50 years old. I wouldn't say 100 years old. So 50 years old, 50 years back, there are computer scientists who came up with all of these abilities to create neural networks, to train neural networks. So why have we waited 50 years for all of this to actually happen in real life? And the answer is computing, right? So we're finally at a point where we have massive, massive amounts of computing that allow us to put a lot of these theories into practice. So there are, however, 2 ceilings we are hitting right now. It's still a computing ceiling. We're still not able to give enough compute to AI to maximize its abilities. It's still a massive bottleneck. And the second issue where they're still hitting into, which is debatable, they're saying that AI algorithms are hitting their limits as well, right? So I think when you're talking about where AI is in general, I would say there are obviously certain elements which are plateauing, but I do feel there's a tremendous amount of potential left in AI as long as we can get the compute power in and see what it does next, right? There are elements of security that we've not talked about, ethics we've not talked about, which are real world issues that will limit you on AI, right? So I don't know if I've given you an answer, but it's a tough one. It's a very broad question. So
We'll just take one more question because it's already 6 o'clock, so we have to wind up the show. On.
sorry, you can come here and ask me the question.
When we give the prompts and the solution or the whatever image or video text come, so what are the copyright issues, or how because when we create it, we like to own it in a way and forward it as if we created.
Right, right.
So what is the what should be done?
I think you're asking again a question which is one of the biggest, hairiest questions in AI right now is, who owns the content that is being created through prompts? Who is responsible? Does OpenAI own it, or do you own it? And I would say there is no clear answer, unfortunately, right now, right? I would just feel that one of the things that is becoming very clear, right, is you can use AI to pretend to be somebody else, right? You can use AI to be a screenwriter who is really famous and have AI speak and write stories like that screenwriter, which is starting to become plagiarism now, right? But if you're giving it prompts independently and it's helping you create content that other people are consuming, well, it's your ownership. You know what I'm saying? So I think that there is an area now which is gray, but there's also blacks and whites now. But it's not clear, unfortunately. So.
Okay, with that, we would like to wrap the session and thank Trideep for a very engaging and
thank you.
interesting session. A huge round of applause for Trideep, please.
Thank you so much. Oh, great. This side. All right. Excellent.
Thank you everyone for coming. It was the last session of the day, but thank you for making it a success. And with this, we come to the end of day 2 of the Broadcast India conference. And yes, thank you, Tridib, for being here and for doing this, I think, a very relevant session.